Okay.
All right, fellas, another evening together. Let's go ahead and open up in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, God, for this opportunity that you have afforded us once again to be able to come together as men and just share perspective and to dialogue with each other, to be able to just give insights on what the Holy Spirit has revealed to us. We ask, God, that you allow this time to be beneficial. Help us to take back something that we can apply to our lives and the different spheres of influence that we're in as husbands, as fathers, as brothers, as employees, as entrepreneurs, whatever sphere we're in, God, help us to just be better for it. And we will give your name all praise, all glory, and all honor. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, brothers, I'll tell you, I don't know about you, but I really, really, really appreciate this chapter. I mean, man, just the communication element of it. Um, I said it last week, kind of in closing, that I kind of felt like this is going to be like almost like the kingdom holiness version of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and I'll tell you, did not disappoint. But I'm curious, what stood out for you guys? Was there any point you kind of wanted to jump us off with in terms of what really stood out?
Yeah, I think it started off listing the differences between men and women, like the needs of men and the needs of women, and going through them. Like it was very finely like clearly defined, and there are some of them that I wasn't at the glance, I wasn't too sure why they separated them. Like for the woman, the need of to feel loved and the need for affection being
Yeah,
two distinct things.
right,
It was like one day the same thing, but it's
right.
like reading through, I was really getting the point that like someone can really know that they are loved, but still feel a little bit that there could be more when it comes to having moments where affection is being like we're paying attention to affection.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was interesting to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I initially was like, huh, I'm curious to see where he goes with this to see differentiate the difference between love and affection. And it was good. It really was. I mean, that was definitely my favorite part of the chapter, breaking down the three primary needs of men and primary needs of women. And it got me thinking, I think it was on the previous page. I think it was on the first page of this chapter. Yeah, where he talked about consider this illustration. You fill up your car's gas tank with gasoline so that it will run. However, you don't pour gasoline on your plants to make them grow. Each entity needs to be given what is appropriate for its own nature and needs. And I thought that was, powerful just to really set the stage that men and women just fundamentally they have different needs. And many times it's kind of challenging because you kind of get caught up into your needs and you're like, okay, well, my needs aren't being met. This is what I need. So I'm assuming that this is what my significant other needs, my wife, my counterpart. But, this is letting us know that it's not. And imagine having a vehicle and like never having a manual to that vehicle and just simply going off of the advice of other people saying, hey, well, I put milk in my gas tank and it seems to work just fine. I put orange juice in mine and, I'm good. Oh man, you probably should try lemonade. You know what I'm saying? Like all these different things, people have different recommendations of what they put in there. But if we go back to the manuscript from the manufacturer, we're able to really get insight as to what was the original material that's needed for that vehicle. And I think when you think about it from that standpoint, that what is it that women need in general, and then what is it specifically that my wife needs? And I feel like that's not always the same thing. So did you guys, I guess, come across anything in the book where you're like, I can see why he went there and talked about that with female, but that doesn't necessarily apply to my wife. I'm curious to know kind of, what you guys' experience was concerning some of the things that were brought out in the book. Man, it's
I
quiet today. All right,
I
Quill. I
was gonna say
see.
I can't. Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
can't say that there was too much that I disagreed with. Although the exact details of the intensity that he may have wanted it to be, or the impact that he may wanted it to have, I can't say that I was along with him along that ride. I would say that.
What do you mean by that? I'm curious.
So, like the description that you, like Afari brought up with the how he separated love and affection. Yeah, I
Hmm.
agree that they're separate, but when he went into some details about, I can't think of a right off the top of my head because I'm driving. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
uh, but I thought that how can I put this? Intimacy is another way that I would put it. I think intimacy and affection is probably what he equated with each other.
Mm.
Um, and I think intimacy is a little bit more than affection. And I think that that would have been, if he would have defined intimacy, because I think women need intimacy more so than affection, because affection to me is more surface or platonic, whereas
Mm.
intimacy is that more deep compassion that you have, that more deep attraction that you show to your wife to let them know that they are loved. Whereas love is an action; you do things to show that I love you. That's the way that I would have interpreted, or I did interpret it, I should say.
Mm. That's really good, man. Thank you for that input. That's really good. I think that challenged me to think differently. And you're right. I think intimacy probably is a deeper form of connection, and it's, goes beyond just the surface of affection. That's really good. What did you guys think about that? How it was labeled out and listed out in terms of, in my mind, I saw it as a priority, right? So if we're looking at the three needs of men, respect, recreational companionship, and sex. Do you feel like that is in order of importance? Like the first one is the most important, primary, and then it goes on. I'm curious to know what are your thoughts about that?
I just think that it might depend on the man. Like some people have leaned more into one side than like one of these things than the other. So more likely going to be like just based on the person's personality. But I actually think that the companionship, the recreational companionship was an interesting one that I when I was reading it, I figured it was like it was true, and pe different people express it in different ways, like sports or
Right.
like seeing them do something, work, like whatever it is. But I actually came to realize that yeah, this is a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That one took me by surprise too. I really didn't know what to expect with that one. I was very curious to know, like, where is this one going? But I thought when I immediately thought about sports as well, after probably like the second paragraph in that little subsection, I automatically thought about sports. Like, that makes perfect sense. I thought about like um, even from on the negative sense, gangs, and men getting together for something that's destructive. I mean, like that's just a need. Like we have a need to like be challenged as men and to play a game. And there's always something next. There's always something new to conquer. And that's interesting how that was like pulled out and shown and revealed as a fundamental need for males. So I'm curious, do you guys agree with that? I mean, do you feel like that is the case? Do you feel that you do have a need for recreational companionship?
I mean, you talking about with like with your wife or just in general?
Well, I guess in general, but specifically, with your wife as well, like does it mean more to you if your wife shows interest in the things that you show interest in?
Um, I want to say on both spectrums. In general, yes, for me, because I have nothing but women in the house, so
Mm,
I don't get any of that out unless it's coming from the outside. I mean, um, and I think that's why I think I enjoy, I guess, going to my daughter's sporting events a lot. It's because I mean I get some of that um, while I'm there, and I mean within that, I guess when we're going to those sporting events with our kids, that gives us that moment, I guess, with husband and wife of that recreational companionship because we also are honed in on what we're there to see, I guess. I mean, I don't know how important that is, but I mean, I feel like sometimes I need it just because it's just too much estrogen in the
Too much
in
estrogen.
in the house, and so yeah. I mean, I don't know. That was a good one. I thought that was kind of intriguing on the order. But I guess it could depend on the guy. I guess. Um, I mean, because I can rock out on I mean, I can rock out on a video game and like and the funny thing about it is she like my wife tried to be funny. She purposely goes against the opposite of what I want. Like so it was one like if I'm watching a basketball game, she's like, "Who do you want to win?" And I tell her team, and then she'll start cheering for the other team.
Mm, funny. Okay.
But I mean, it doesn't.
Instigator.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me.
Right.
But it was one time. I mean, she knows I'm a big Curry fan, so when they went to the championship, she's like, I'm a cheer for the Warriors now." And I was like, if you cheer for them and they lose, I'm gonna blame you.
We're gonna have a problem.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know what you guys feel, but I feel like sometimes I do need it just because of my circumstance. But I think we do get it. I mean, it is nice for her to have that experience with her. Um, I mean, I don't know. That's a good one.
I think to each his own. I mean, honestly, I think some people are like they look forward to that kind of isolation man time, when you have that, they look forward to dedicating themselves. And I'm speaking specifically with sports with this example because when I go to like a game, like I go to a Colts game or something, I think it's actually kind of cool when I see like, a man and his woman, kind of like wearing a jersey together, rooting. I think that's kind of cool because we don't have that in my household. Like my wife is not crazy about sports, but specifically football. So it's just like, when it's Coach Sunday, it's like, we blocking out everything for 3 hours, 3.5 hours. I'm watching this game and I'm there by myself, right? I think it would be cool if she would like be a part of that. But at the same time, I wonder like, would that take down the experience for me? Because I can get kind of intense watching the game. I mean, you would think that I got something riding on it sometimes, but like Jonathan Taylor fumbling at the freaking 1 yard line, that was just sickening, man. Sickening. But anyway, I digress. I wonder if my wife was a part of that, would I ruin the experience for her? Because sometimes I get, so intense just watching it. So even though part of me feels like it'd be nice to have that, I wonder if it's better this way, you know, just from a sports perspective. Now, when it also talked about in the book where it talked about how people who are like dedicated to business and like entrepreneurship and stuff. And I think that's the other cool component too, because I've always admired people where it's just like, you're like a Bonnie and Clyde in business. Like I see so many couples that complement each other so well. And my wife, she really isn't, necessarily like that. Like she's more like of a support background player where I don't mind coming to the front of the stage. So it's a part of me where I see two people who are equally powerful coming up in front and they're dynamic speakers and they're very influential. I mean, that's amazing to see. And I wonder, like, is that utopia or is what I have utopia? You know what I mean? But it's still something in me that is curious on what that feels like. Can any of you guys relate? What do you think, MB?
I think it's important to have that companionship and to kind of be on one accord. I feel like one thing I like to do like with my lady is if I like a team, generally I have her adopt the team. Like it ain't that I'm forcing her to, but it's
Right.
like, you know what, you gotta get your Browns gear or you got, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like and for the most part, like my lady goes along with it. And I like to teach. I like the teaching aspect of it because she walks
absolutely.
like, what is that? What's that mean? Like, like so
Yeah,
it's another way to kind of know work and to learn and grow together is just to have that team aspect, that one accord. So I
yeah,
enjoy it, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Every aspect I want, my lady to be involved, whether that's like you said, business, whether that's sports, whatever it is, like whatever my teams is, I need you to adopt the teams. Like
yeah,
now
yeah.
if we got conflicting teams and we can root against each other, it can be fun. So
Right.
I don't look at it as a bad thing. Like Anthony was saying, even if she is rooting against me, it's just being involved with each other and spending time. You know what I'm saying? It's just another aspect you can lean on each other and start to learn from each other and what you enjoy. Stuff like that.
Absolutely. So you identify that as a need. That's something you definitely want.
I wouldn't say it's so much a need, but it's something that I feel like it's important, and it's something that can help you grow as a relationship. Like just like I said, just the teacher aspect of it, like taking time and say, okay, like you said, like you might get extra hype. Sometimes okay, let me just chill, like, and it might
Yeah.
be good for your own health to chill
Right.
sometimes,
Right.
like so.
Yeah.
So I think it's really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. I'm curious to know, Fari, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I also think that that presents a very good opportunity for conversation, which is also a need for the woman.
Yeah,
So it's
that's
like
good.
if you're able to weave the whole experience with some conversation, no, maybe on topic or off topic, whatever it is, like if it's watching movies or something like that, but just making sure that it's an engaging conversation that they value. I think that's going to be a win-win for everybody as well. But sometimes, at least I know when it's like new tech or something like that that I'm getting into. It's like the focus, like you're so into it that they might not feel seen or heard around that time, that
Yeah.
particular time,
Right.
watching a game, going into some tech, something that you're really into. So I think it just helps if you're able to like pay some attention to her and then make sure the conversation is also like they feel present and seen in that moment as well. Yeah.
That's good. Well, Quill, I know you're a sports family man. I'm curious to know your thoughts on that recreational companionship, whether it's in ministry, whether it's in sports. You got anything to contribute to this part?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question for us because we got three children, of course. They've all been involved in sports. My oldest is now in college on an academic scholarship. Praise the Lord. And my baby boy plays football. My baby girl plays volleyball. I like watching track and field. We love the Olympics. So uh, we're loaded in a number of ways. Um, yes, we do participate in and we do watch sports together. But I mean, is that something that we need? No. Is it something that we enjoy? Yes. Yes. It's very gratifying for both of us to sit down and watch it together. We both have our teams that we like, and we both have our teams that we dislike together. Uh, Coming from Indianapolis, or I should say, yeah, well, Indianapolis area, my wife is a big Colts fan. I grew up in San Antonio, Texas, where we didn't have a football team. But I grew up liking the Buccaneers and the Patriots because they were the worst teams in the NFL. And I know the NFL is cyclical, and therefore they were going to be good again. And so, sure enough, by the time I guess what? The Buccaneers and the Patriots are good. And everybody's like, oh, you just a bandwagon. No, I can name people on the teams back in the
Wow.
and early 2000s. I can't
Wow.
hardly name teams when Brady was playing. I just can't. So,
Wow.
but yeah, and I'm also a Spurs fan, so I'm a big Spurs fan.
Oh,
Love the
yeah. Yeah.
Spurs. Love
Yeah.
a Spurs fan. And my wife is a Pacers and she grew up a Bulls fan.
Hmm.
No, ain't nobody better than Michael Jordan, according to her. So, so it does help out, but I do think that need for men to collaborate and be together is essential for
Mm.
our own growth and development, and
Yeah.
also for us to be able to sow back into our wives because they can't give us manly interaction, that tough love that we get from each other, and continue to move on.
Yeah.
They're the softer side of us, and we can't give them that tough love. I mean, if we get too harsh with them, we'll break them down.
Yeah.
And our words can tear them up in a heartbeat. So that's something
Mhm.
that we need to be watchful for when we're having that interaction. Understand that the audience that we're dealing with.
So let me make sure I got you, Quill. Are you saying that you feel like the need falls more profoundly on the need to connect with that recreational companionship on like the brotherly side of the equation more so than like your spouse or counterpart, the
Oh,
female?
like I said, like I agree with Afari. I think it varies per person. For
Yeah.
me, it does because for a long time,
Okay.
say like Anthony Hoosier, he's in a household of girls. I don't know how that man do it. I don't. I have no clue. I feel for that brother every time I see his name come up on my phone. I do. My heart goes out to that man. Right,
I
but I.
appreciate that.
But yeah, I think that for me personally, it is essential for me to have a brotherhood that I can connect with. Whether it's you guys, whether it's the men in church, whether it's one on one, just taking a brother out to eat lunch, breakfast, dinner, whatever it may be. I, that helps me to level set per se, and I can talk about things that I can't discuss with my wife and don't
Yeah.
want to wife. And
Yeah.
I think part of it is essential for us.
Man, you said something, Quill, that's so big, man, and it wasn't even in this chapter, but I think it's worth bringing up. That's one thing I had to learn is that as a male husband, specifically, leader of your household, like, yes, you want an open relationship with your wife where you do have a line of communication, but I didn't realize that you're not supposed to say everything. And I didn't realize that because it was a part of me was like, okay, I want this open and honest marriage. And I just thought that anything that came across like my mind, my heart, I just had to communicate. But there were some times that even though I meant well, it just was no value in what I was saying. Like I wanted to kind of feel this sense of togetherness, like this would bring us closer, but in hindsight, when I look back at it, it's like, man, there was no nutritional value in that at all. It just was something that didn't really need to be said. And that took some learning, a growth to realize that, like, man, some stuff is not for your spouse. I mean, some stuff really is for gatherings like this. It's really for that trusted Christian friend who can handle that and it not go further than that conversation. You know what I'm saying? So that element of community, man, and just the Bible always talks about it, forsake not the assembly of yourselves together, and how good and how pleasant is it for brethren to dwell together in unity. I mean, that gives us clues, man, that, we need that. If you feel like you don't need recreational companionship from your significant other, you definitely need it somewhere, and it's probably with other brothers for sure. Now, I did want to go ahead and be.
And I agree with that. I feel like it's like one certain games, like I might call my best friend and we had talked through the game. And you want to enjoy it, with like you said, with a brother and a brotherhood. But I feel like certain games, it ain't that important. I'll sit down and watch it. So I feel like it is a good mix. You need a mix, and you need testosterone around you at times. Just like you said, so you can open up and you can be a little bit more straightforward with certain stuff. So I feel like it's important to have a mix. But I think it's important too to have time, especially if you got a favorite sports team with your lady as well. But I feel like it's a different context, depending
Yeah,
on maybe the level of the game and how intense the game is. Like if it's a playoff game, maybe I want to call my best friend
right,
and talk stuff to him,
right.
or if it's something that's just like a regular game, you sit here just hanging out. I feel like it's good as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good contribution. What
Yeah.
you got, Afari?
I think this on the same point, we need clean, pure, and in most cases, same-sex relationships that augment some of these needs. Like
Yeah,
your partner is one person and may not be able to meet your need every time in some of these areas, like with respect, with companionship, with well, sex is exclusive,
yeah,
but other things like conversation. Like I
Right.
know couples where the man is not so into like having conversations for a long time. And
Yeah.
so they would have conversations, but maybe the lady is would have a brother or a younger sister or someone that they can spend time talking to outside of that core relationship where they have um, where it's the husband and wife relationship. So I think like some people think they will find everything in that one individual, and for the most part, like God gives you what you need for life. But I mean, there's still community that should give you something when your partner either has been spent or is not like is not giving you everything that you're looking for. There's some value in having community like brothers, like um, your siblings or someone just recognizing that for this particular need of mine, yes, my partner will do it to an extent, but um, I can I can find someone that I care about or someone who is family, who is safe, who is same sex, so that it doesn't get weird.
Yeah.
That can support in that area as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it, man. I completely 100% agree with that. And you touched on respect. I wanted to kind of go back to that one part because I felt like this stood out for me. I actually highlighted it. I liked how um, they talked about kind of how the woman can support better the male's need for respect. And the parts I have highlighted says she needs to remind him of his capabilities and help him to maintain his self-confidence. And I thought that was huge. Like when you're talking about like not only acknowledging the fact that someone that your significant other has different needs than you, but really getting definition and getting insight into how you can better fill that need, I think is powerful. And this gives me language to communicate that to my wife. Like when I'm like, of course, if you read the Bible for any length of time, you've heard, men need respect, women need to feel loved and cherished. So we know that, but sometimes we lack the language to be able to communicate exactly how to fulfill that. And one of my favorite sayings is the power to define is the power to fulfill. So this just gives me language to really define what my need is and how my spouse can really, you know, do that. And I think that was amazing by I can literally just give her that one sentence is remind me of my capabilities in my weak moments when I feel disrespected because life just beat me up for that day. I need you to help me by reminding me of my capabilities and help me to maintain my self-confidence. Because if my self-confidence goes, I'm not going to be any good until I can recover. So to keep me from going in that space, I need you to just help me with that. I think that was powerful. Did that hit any of you guys in a similar way at all? Curious.
I felt the same way as you did on that one as well.
Yeah, 100.
I feel like just having your woman behind you and rooting you on. It's kind of like a cheerleader in sports. When you got somebody behind you and just root you on, then it does push you to higher ground. Like it's not a bad thing. So I feel like respect is very important, and understanding that your woman is behind you to be able to just discuss certain things with her, and because she know everything about you more than anybody else will.
Yeah,
She's in close quarters with you, so when you need it, just that push is always a blessing.
absolutely.
Yeah, I've always said this. I don't know if I think the same as anybody else, but my mindset always goes to for every successful man that you see, there's like a supportive wife standing behind him. And I think the man gets to that point of losing his way, and then stuff start interfering, and then that's when they start separating. But I mean, I use my cousin as an example. Like her and her husband just they got he filed for divorce maybe a couple of years ago, but she like she supported him. Like he had this vision where he wanted to go as far as with business wise and all this stuff, and And even though she was reluctant because some of that had to do with putting her house up, um, for collateral to get things started and this and the other. She did it. She supported everything, and they became very, very, very successful. I mean, really successful. And I just felt like without her support, not saying that a man can't do it on his own, but I think like Buyer said, like that, just that support of the woman, and that woman giving that man the things that he said throughout this whole book of what a man needs. Uh, I just think that changes the trajectory of how a man can be and how successful they can be. But I just think sometimes men get too big for their britches and start feeling themselves, and then that's when they want to start saying, "Hey, like start branching off and doing whatever they got to do," and now the marriage is ruined. But um, that was always my philosophy. Without a success, what every successful man, there's a very supportive wife standing beside, right behind him or beside him, wherever you want to, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
It kind of took me back to when you was talking about ministry and how, great men in ministry, they had that woman that support them, that woman that's behind them, that woman that's helping to push them forward. It kind of shows when you have that level of respect where your lady's behind you and constantly
Absolutely.
pushing you forward and make you believe in yourself. And when you got those moments where you might, everybody get moments where you have insecurity. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
you're not sure about something, or you think that you got this vision, but you don't know if you want to do it. But then she behind you like, go ahead and do it, baby. Try. And as you go do it. And like Anthony said, you become successful. And one thing I always think about is like, if you shoot with me in the gym, huh, you should always be in the gym with me. Like you ever get to the point where you people are in the gym with you and they shooting with you and you just decide, okay, now I got it. I'm leaving you behind because now, I became big. I feel like that could be your downfall as well.
Mhm.
So it's very important to kind of walk that thin line and understand who with you. The people that's with you should always be with you when you become successful. I feel like it's definitely a humility thing when it comes to that. Knowing that you have somebody behind you that give you that kind of respect, that kind of battery pack in your back, like, okay, keep going. You got to always kind of look at those people with a certain value.
Absolutely. You said something key there, MB, man, with the whole ministry piece. I remember someone told me, it's like, I don't care how anointed someone is, how good they can preach, how many tongues they speak in. Don't show me all that. Show me that man's wife. And that lets me know all that I need to know. And I think that um, by being in a few churches and seeing examples of uh, wives of ministers and first ladies to the pastor, how they support versus seeing the non-support, I think that really speaks volumes in terms of like the character, but also the leadership abilities and the effectiveness, of that man for sure. So I 100% agree with you there, MB. Absolutely. So there was this part on the female's need for love that I thought was worth bringing up as well, because we talked about how the woman can really help with that primary need for man of respect. And as men, it talks about how we can, to Afari's point, I think he brought this up, we can spend more time with our women, and it's going to make them feel cherished because they're going to know that we're putting them first in life. And I just think when you're talking about that feeling of being cherished, I mean, it really is truly a, a statement of value, really. It's like, how much do you value, your woman, your wife? And spending time. Like many times, I mean, it's just, especially hard chargers. Like sometimes, like I could be super, super goal oriented and just focus and just hard charging moving forward. And I sometimes forget about that. And before I know it, it's at the end of the day and I barely spent 5 minutes with my wife. You know what I mean? And then it's like I'm dog tired for the day. So I need to be better with allocating my time so that she really could get that primary need met, which is that feeling of being cherished, knowing that I'm prioritizing her. So, anybody have any experience with that where like you either got that right or maybe you got that wrong and you realize how important that is?
I feel like with my wife, like if I ain't doing it, she gonna let me know fast. So and I gotta get it corrected. But
Yeah,
I enjoy spending time with her. I enjoy making sure that she feel wanted and loved all the time. Sometimes you just get caught up in life, and you're
yeah,
not paying attention.
right.
You get so like you said, like you were speaking to it last week. Like you get to a point like you doing the task and you just want to get it finished, so you get so locked into it,
Yeah.
you're not thinking about nothing outside of that task. Like,
Hmm.
but it's just good to have somebody to keep you level. Like
Yeah.
I feel like that's important. I feel like that's what marriage is all about, and I feel like that's what he speaks to in the book. Is how you level each other out. It's kind of like I can't think of what it is, the teeter totter when you was a kid. And is that is that the thing in the playground where it's
Yeah.
one
Like
person on one
seesaw?
side? Yeah, seesaw, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like with it when you have a wife, it's like a built-in seesaw. You know what I'm saying? If you get too high or too low, they gonna at least usually level you out if it's a good wife. So
Yeah.
I'm new on this journey, but I just thank God for for her and just like the fact that she pushes me. Like at times, like okay, I'm not even thinking of that. Like, but then God will speak to me along the way. Like, man, yeah, you got to tighten up. Like so, it's just adjustments. And I feel like it's important to have somebody to help you to balance out. And that love is a factor, a balance. Spending time with a woman is a factor of balance.
100. 100%. Well, the second piece of meeting the need for a woman was conversation. Oh my goodness. And this is probably the weakest area for me because I'm pretty sure I saw a statistic that women talk twice as much, like at least twice as much as men. So like women talk, they use 50,000 words in a day. Men on average can cap it at 25,000. So conversation for real, it takes a lot of bandwidth for me particularly. So it's just like, man, and plus the way that I'm wired, like I really do love the art of communication, and I live by if you can communicate something in 3 words, why use 30 words, right? It's like literally like that's how I was taught in like sales and marketing. It's like, less is more. So when I'm in that mindset all throughout the day, and then now it's time to go to my wife and I have to shift gears, it's very difficult to get into like that conversational piece. And man, that is a weak area for me. So I really want to hear from Quill. I want to hear from everybody really, but Quill, man, what have you learned about the conversation piece, man? What kind of wisdom can you give us, brother?
It's funny you say that because for me, my focus has always been, I should say not always, more recently has been to try to say what you have to say in a minute or less. Say what you have to say in a minute or less. Get to your point, stick to your point,
Right,
and be done
right,
with it and move
right,
on.
right.
Now, here's a good example, like you just mentioned, with my wife tonight. Uh, she called me. She wanted to know if I was going to be able to pick up baby girl tonight. I said, yes, not a problem. That's to me, that's enough,
Right.
right?
What else needs to be said? What else
I
needs to be
know.
said? Right.
All right. Then she's like, "Well, you're not gonna." And in her mind, I can tell she's thinking, "Okay, are you gonna ask what time? Do you know where she is? Do you know what she's gonna need? Is there anybody else gonna be with her?" And I'm like, "No, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good." And but she, she so she goes ahead. She's gonna give me all that information, and
Yeah.
I'm like, "Babe, I appreciate it. All I need to know is what time, where I need to go, who's picking up if anybody else, and I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good."
Right.
But no, with her is it goes on, and then I described an incident. So the incident I described probably in about 5 minutes, and then she told her particular story. Her story took about 25 minutes. So yes, yeah, yeah, they do that. What did you say? Speak twice, listen once, and vice versa for us.
Oh my goodness.
Can't remember what you said, but that yeah, yeah, it's the truth. It's the truth. I can't help it. It's the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. So what about my newlyweds, Safari buyers? I'm curious to hear from you guys, man.
I love that sentence where he says she needs him to listen to her attitude about the events of her day with his
Yeah.
sensitivity, interest, and concern,
Yes,
resisting the
sir.
impulse to offer solutions. That's one
Yes,
thing that
sir.
I always do. I'm starting to learn like don't always just give a solution. Like just
Right.
sometimes just
Ah,
listen.
man.
I feel like I get myself in trouble by always offering a solution when that ain't necessary. Huh? Like just
Right.
sometimes just
You
talk like and
helping me,
listen.
man.
Like so. I'm learning that. Like I'm
Right.
learning that. That's something
Right.
that I definitely feel like I done ran into a couple brick walls with.
Yeah. I can relate,
Yeah,
man.
I agree, Byers. One thing that a very wise man, my father, said one time. Ask the question, babe, do you want me to give a solution or do you want me to listen?
That's good advice, man. That's good advice.
As far as cracking up.
I
I
was
do
saying
know.
Farid can eat a banana sideways, man. This must be this. He must have. We must have hit something with him, man.
Yeah. I agree with what you just said. I hear that all the time because, and I think it's said it may have said in this chapter, like when you talk to me and you talking about like my wife, she works in the school, so she comes home and talk about her job and this is always something.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, I'm like, you telling me because you want me to tell you what I mean.
Right. You need my help, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
need to get out of
So
this pickle.
so
I'm
then
gonna
she
help
gets
you.
mad. Then she gets mad and said, "Well, it's almost like that parent and kid thing. Like,
Yeah.
listen when I'm talking to you. I didn't tell you to speak, and then when you tell them say something again, like I'm talking to you, answer my
Yeah.
question, type
Yeah.
deal. So I'm sitting there trying to help. I didn't tell you all this for you to give your input on it. I'm just telling you. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
so then so then if I don't say nothing,
Right.
she's like, well, you don't have nothing to
You don't
say.
got
I'm
nothing to
like,
say? Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
well, what? I don't know what to do. I'm lost now.
Man, I think you
And
just
I call
encapsulated.
it being punch drunk, huh?
You said what?
I call
What?
it being punch drunk. I feel like
Uh,
sometimes conversations with your lady it'll make you punch drunk. You don't know what to say, what
you
not
don't
to
know what
say.
to
Yeah.
do.
It's
Yeah.
like, man,
You
what you want me to do? Like,
you lost. And I'm like, well, I mean, but yeah, but I always get caught up more of the latter. Like I'm just like, okay, you telling me because you want me to tell you
Right.
how to get out of this or what you need to say or how
Yeah.
you need to handle it.
Yeah.
So, and then it goes left from there.
It's like, man, this is my opportunity to flex, man. This is my opportunity to show my wife I got the solution. And that's not what this party is about at all. We had to learn that the hard way.
Well, one pastor said that after about 15 years of ministry, he learned not to counsel women. And I was a bit shocked. It was like the last 5 years has been his most successful
That's
season
hilarious.
counseling women. And the reason being, he just listens and he gives cues and he lets the conversation flow. It's like, is that so? Oh, really? So what do you think?
Yeah,
And so
that's
that
wise.
that gets that conversation going. And then he says most times than not, they
Yeah,
come around to a solution and they feel heard. And I think what I took from that is a lot of conversation is around being understood, being heard, and also you learning who they are, like their preferences, like all of that. And so I think that temptation to try to find a solution, I have heard it so many times in the past few weeks. It's like you don't have to solve everything.
yeah,
It's not,
right,
it's not,
right.
it's not purely about the solution.
Yeah,
It's really about learning who we both are,
that's good,
how
man.
we think about certain things, what
That's
our
super
position
good.
is, so that in any situation, like you can be thinking around the issue and understanding, like approaching it the way that with that knowledge of who they are. And so, yeah, I think that's something that I also have to learn. It's like, especially when there's something that I feel like it's bothering them and I can do something about it
Right,
and I am responsible for it. It's
right.
like, yeah, it's interesting.
It really is, man. And I'm actually thinking back and it's making me really crack up on the inside. I don't know if you guys saw it, but like maybe about a year or two ago, there was like this. It was on social media. Don't want to call it like a meme. It was almost like a skit. But this woman was just saying, she was just describing like, and it hurts me so much, and this and that. Then the camera gives this like viewpoint of like she literally has like a nail in her head. And he's just like, if I could just grab it and take it out, like it'll make it better. Like it was just to me captured so well, like the dynamic between how males and females, specifically in marriage, communicate. And it's just like, man, we're so wired to be result oriented and we measure things and we're calculated and logical. And it's just like, oh, that's the problem. Boom, we can immediately give a remedy. We can immediately get you out of pain, closer to pleasure, just like that. But like literally, it's like women may feel like they want to just soak in it and they just want you to feel them. You know what I mean? And it's just like, and I'm reminded of, I heard a minister that talked about this one time where in the Bible, where you have Jacob and how he really wanted to be married to Rachel, but Laban, his uncle, tricked him, and he ended up marrying Leah first. So he ended up obviously being married to both of them, but Leah knew that she was not the one who was really wanted. So it's interesting the sons that she had actually have like a real deep meaning. So like the first son, which is Reuben, if I'm not mistaken, that actually means see me, I believe, or something like that. And if I have the order wrong, you can look it up. But it was very powerful. But it's see me. The next son is hear me, and then the son after that is basically feel me, right? And I just think that captures so much of women's needs is they want to be seen by you, they want to be heard by you, and they really want to feel connected and understood by us, right? So when we do that, I think we do a good job as men, as coverings, as husbands to really move closer toward truly fulfilling our wives, totally. Um, but yeah, I just was reminded of that. Go ahead, Afari, what you got, man?
Yeah, and one thing I also realized is just over the weekend, like there's we were having this conversation, and I learned that it wasn't just the facts or the solution, like it wasn't just the content or how I what the facts of the conversation was that she was interested in, but she wanted to know how I felt about it, what my opinion was about
Interesting. Okay.
that thing, and then what the truth of the matter to me was. So it was way more than, okay, this is the fact, this is what it is, this is what the observation is. It's like
Mm,
it feels a bit distant or disconnected from your person, your view on it, and all of I think that goes back to intimacy and like feeling like you are being vulnerable about the whole thing. I think we can be very objective and like very like try to take our personal biases from a situation and then just approach
right.
it objectively. But I think sometimes too in conversation they want that vulnerability that um what your opinion is, like raw opinion is unfiltered, like uncurated. And I think that makes them feel very close and very connected. Yeah. So I think that's important.
For sure. What you got, Anthony?
I know you're just talking about like, I mean, men think logically, and I know in a part of the book, I know I'm skipping ahead. It talks about where the differences in realizing goals and how the task of men, they need to know like step by step, like
Right.
all the details before they jump into stuff. And when I was reading it, I laughed because my wife is not like that. So she's like, I think I'm gonna rip the carpet up in the living room this weekend. And I'm like, and do what? Like, I mean, what if there's a like because last time we did it, that was like in our old house because we moved. It was something wrong with the floor up under it. We wasn't prepared for it.
Mm,
Like I got frustrated. Like I was like, see, so she's like, yeah, I think I'm gonna rip it up this weekend. I say, Stephanie, if you rip it up, what if there's an issue with the floor up under it? Like, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna solve this? Like,
Yeah.
it happened to us last time.
Right.
Like, even when I work on a car, like, I'm getting all the details down on what I need, like the steps and everything before I even go out there and tackle. Now, some of the stuff I just know because I'm used to working on it. But I'm a car guy. I'm not really a house guy. So when it comes to the house, man, I gotta look at YouTube. I gotta look at 5 to 10 different videos. Like, I need those steps. And just in case this happens, like, what do you do? Like,
Hmm.
because like, but she's not. I mean, I'll come home and something's ripped down. And she's like, "Can you come and help me with this?" I'm like, "What are you doing?" Like,
Yeah.
why did you just rip this wall down and don't have no plan? Well, I got a plan. I just need for you to help. I'm like, oh my goodness. And that just spoke volumes to me because I was like, that is exactly me and my wife, like, to a T.
Yeah. Yeah, this book really does help you figure out, man, who you are, and it really helps you have that sense where "Man, I'm not alone." Okay. So not only are there people like me, but there's a whole heck of a lot of women like my wife. So a lot of husbands are going through what I'm going through. So that gives a little bit of encouragement. But I think to Afari's point, when we look at communication and kind of the aim for each person, what they're looking to get out of it. It's like, the women, they want to really know how you feel about something. Whereas like men want to know, what do you think about this? What are your thoughts? You know what I mean? Like it's really, really different. It's similar, but it really is different. And I just remember in the earlier years of marriage, I remember just telling my wife, like, I'm in a no-win situation because I'm up against your feelings, and you tell me how to fight feelings. Like, how do I win against something that is intangible? You know what I mean? Like, I I can't refute that. I don't have an argument for that. You just have this feeling, and there's nothing I can do with it. But I'm learning now that once we get past the feelings, if I can get down and let her dump and get those feelings out, then I can bring it back and say, okay, what are your thoughts? What do you think? And then on the other end of the spectrum, if she allows me to get my thoughts out, then I'm better prepared and better able to get to tell her my feelings. And I think that I love what they said. I think it was in part in number 3 where it said that we just need to exercise patience. So as men, it might be tough to hear all of the feelings, and I feel this way, and she made me feel that, and then after that, I had this feeling. I felt some type of way. By the way, I hate that saying "some type of way" because what does that even mean? Like, give me like, do you feel mad? If you're mad, say that. Are you sad? If you're sad, say that. Don't tell me you feel some type of way. Give me definition, right? That's just a pet peeve of mine. But anyway, that once you get through all that, the patience of just like sitting back, letting them get that out, and then you can get what you want, which is, okay, what are you thinking? Like, what are your thoughts about this? And now we're at the point that Afari and Byers are talking about the facts, which is really what we enjoy about it. So curious, how does that hit y'all? Q, we haven't heard from you in a minute, man. What's your thoughts?
I was just listening to the brothers, and you hit the nail on the head, taking the time to understand and being intentional about how we communicate, how we receive communication. Uh, I getting the facts is it's what we do. It's extremely hard to get past the emotional state.
Yeah.
So the question I would ask is, how do you practice that? How do you practice when the more that you try to get to the crux of the situation, the more heated the conversation gets. So how do you get past the emotional state so that you get to the facts? That's the question that I would ask the fellas.
Mm. Anybody want to tackle that?
I think it's more so repetition. Like I feel like Quill, like I feel like you hit it on the head with like how men just want everything done in 1 minute. and that's it. Like, like, but one thing I realized is like you got to just stay slow and take the time to really listen. Like, that's the hard part about it. Like, same thing I was offering, like without offering solutions, just listening, like just learning, like what your woman needs emotionally, and actually patterning towards that. Sorry, there's a lot of commotion going on with my dog.
Are you good? Gotta love them, big boys. Yeah, yeah. Man, how do you do that? I tell you, was not one that learned quickly, and I think I'm probably still learning. In that case, I think this book really has given me a lot of tools to be better equipped, as I have future conversations. But I agree with Byers. I think at the end of the day, it boils down to, reputation. Not reputation, but repetition, and just really getting intentional with it. It's like developing that muscle to muscle memory. So like when we're playing basketball, if I'm right-handed and I do things predominantly with my right hand, I have to be intentional and it's going to be awkward. But the more that I do it and move with my left hand, driving left, finishing with my left, it's going to become more and more natural. So I just think it's just something that we just have to be intentional on and just make this decision like this is what I'm going to use to elevate my game to level up this cycle, this off season, if you will. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to come back and my game is now going to have the ability to drive left and to finish left. And the more we do it and the more we practice, the better we get at it. What are your thoughts so far?
Yeah, I also think empathy, like being able
Mm,
to,
that's good.
um, it's not always validating all the feelings, but then there's always something that you can sit back and say, well, I get why you're feeling this way because this thing happened this way, and I would probably feel or in general, this makes me like this is justifiably true that you should be feeling maybe upset about something like that. Like just sometimes it's just even describing the process of how things led to how they are feeling right now is so disarming and validated. It's like, okay, point is made. Like my point of feeling this way has been communicated. He gets it. And then from that point, like there's some form of rest or some form of and it goes back to what Byers was saying. It's like it means you have actually listened and you've laid it out in your mind in a way that makes sense and that validates. Yeah, I think that usually helps to get to the next step of however solving the problem is. It's like you understand, and so now let's get a solution. But if you don't get it yet, or if they don't get that you get it, then it keeps like they keep trying to make the point so that you get it in some sense. Yeah. So I think that's how I try to get to the point beyond that feeling part. Yeah.
That's good. I'm just astounded, man, at how Byers and Afari, man, and they young relationships got so much wisdom. What you got, MB? Drop some more
I
wisdom on
mean,
us, man.
hey, it's trial by error, huh? Trial by error. But the third paragraph say when a man and a woman learn that they comprehend the spoken word in distinct ways, they can tailor their communication styles to match the way the other best receives and process information. So what I'm learning is like I'm saying the same thing that my wife is saying at times,
Yeah,
but it's just the way that I'm saying it
right.
is not being received. Like, so I'm learning like, man, like I can't say it in a way that I'm most comfortable with saying it. I got to learn how to say it in a way that she receive it. Like, because no matter what I say, if emotionally is not attached to it, it's not gonna go through. You know what I'm saying? So then we're gonna end up with the same conversation over and over and over and over again. So I'm
Yeah,
learning like just through trial and error. Like, I gotta say it how she best receives it, so she can process it in a way that she's gonna receive it. Because if I don't say it in the mode that she want to hear it, it's never gonna be received. It's gonna just be a constant mute point, and that's gonna constantly repeat itself. So if I ever want to, like, it's like playing a video game. If I ever want to reach that next level, I got to go ahead and do it how you best receive it, which for a man is uncomfortable because we like to do things our way with ways that
yeah,
we set in, different ways of speech patterns, different things like that, and we
right.
comfortable with. But
Right.
with a woman, you can't approach it like that. Like
Yeah.
you can't approach it in the matter of, oh, this is how I say it, so this is how it's gonna be. Like if
Mm.
she's not receiving it emotionally, it is a wasted conversation. Like you're gonna end
Right.
up with that same conversation over and over and over again
Yeah.
until you realize, like, I got to give it to her in a way that she best receives it, the way that she feels comfortable, and that emotional experience is, being, what's the word I want to say, being, I don't know if caressed is the word, or respected. I don't know what the word I want to use in that statement, but just like you have to meet them on an emotional level, because if it's not
Yeah.
there, no matter what, it's never going to be received. Like I'm learning that.
Absolutely. Got anything that contributes to that one, Anthony?
I mean, no, not really. I mean, they pretty much hit every point that you could probably make. I mean, uh, I just I don't know. I mean, I guess every aspect is different because sometimes, like, I'm not even gonna lie. I know sometimes, um, if she keeps asking me something over again, the same question, I'll become mute.
Mm.
I mean, I just like, look, I didn't answer it. I mean, and sometimes I try to break it down, like to Lee, at least to me, I'll be like, man, okay, a kindergartner can understand this one, and I'll be trying to break it down at least to see, like, okay, this is why, and if she's still on that, I'm just like, all right, I guess I'm gonna just be quiet. I just gotta let the Lord give me the words to say at this
Yeah.
point because right now I'm not. It's not going to come from me, and I think that's a lot of things
Mm.
that I mess up with
Yeah.
is I tend to put my hands on it quicker instead of letting the Lord speak to me in a
Wow.
way that I can deliver the message in a better that she would understand better or why I made the decision that I made, I guess. Um, and I mean, I speak that personally because of the issue that we're dealing with our daughter that I have you guys ask for prayer about is, and I told her, I was like, because she was just at wit's end, and I was like, I just said, Stephanie, like, I'm tired of putting my hands on this because it seemed like every time we put our hands on it, it just seemed like it just gets worse. I was like, I think the Lord's telling us, hey, just peace, be still, like,
Mm.
just pray and let Him do His work because it seemed like every time we try to touch something or say something, it gets worse. So, so yeah, I think sometimes I agree with you, buyers, like, but I think the way that we can say it for them to take it in is we have to let the Lord give us those words to tell them in a way that they can receive it.
Hey, Anthony, I agree with you wholeheartedly. There's times when even Byron said that question keeps coming up over and 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 over again. And I sit there and I just pray, hold my peace and pray. Ask God to give me what to say and how to say it. Even if this question comes up the first time and say today, it's the same question that's been asked 15, 20 times before. I pause, and it may be a long pause. And she'll be looking at me and be like, hey, you got anything you want to say? I'm like, just give me a moment. Give me a moment. I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to answer this question so that it won't come up again. But sometimes I guess there's certain topics that hit home so hard with them that they're going to continue to bring it up until they have that absolute emotional comfort level. That's what I'm learning right now. And getting to that point, we'll never know until they stop bringing it up again.
Mm. That's good.
On that particular one, I think where I also falter sometimes is non-verbal communications. Like sometimes it's not just about what you have said, but like your posture, your
Yeah.
response time to
Yeah.
something. It's like
Oh my goodness, you're hitting it,
a
man.
certain expression on the face. I
You're
mean,
hitting it.
it's like they have 360 detectors or something like that. Like they can pick up on those things very quick, emotional
Man,
intelligence. And so,
man.
and that also sometimes speaks to how cherished they feel, how in like even if you're going to do it anyways, like you they ask you to do something and then for a moment, like you pause or there's a slight expression on your face. It's like very quickly they can pick it up and say, all right, I'll just do it myself. It's like, no, 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 no. It's like, even if you end up doing it, it's like there's a missed opportunity. It devalues some of what you're willing to do anyways, or you're going to do anyways. So I think it's not like you have to always act like you're excited about something that you have to do, or like this you don't really feel something, but I think it's important that we check our genuine response as well, because even before you say something, you're already talking when it comes to
Man,
community.
you're
Yeah.
right. Yeah, my wife tells me all the time, look at your face. Like, I need to take a picture of your face so you can see. I'm like, all right, you obviously misreading, but sometimes I gotta admit, she be on it. And it's just I'm not ready to admit it yet. But it's yeah, you're right. The body language, the facial expressions, that is an area where I need to grow because I sometimes have a look of disgust and I don't even mean to. It's just I'm that irritated. So I gotta learn how to wrangle that in a little bit. But in closing, kind of wanted to make sure we stopped on time this time. We went a little bit long last time, but that point seven, where it talked about differences in ideas of security and comfort. I just wanted to know y'all's thoughts on that because I thought that was very interesting for me. I think of my wife, and she's been working since she's about 14, 15, and the job she's on now, she's been there for over 16 years, and I definitely can see like how a woman views security and comfort versus a man where like hey I have done many ventures before, I've had a foray in real estate, insurance, transportation, just a bunch of different things because I have a lot of interest, but I also see how they're stepping stones to really help to elevate me. So I have no problem being somewhere for working on a project for 2 years or for 6 months. It doesn't matter to me because it's just all a stepping stone to for me anyway. So I thought that was interesting, the dichotomy between how a woman views security and comfort and what a man finds that in. Obviously, we know that there's rules and then there's exceptions to the rules. We know there's some men that really have that sense of comfort where they don't move, where some women they're really assertive in terms of moving up the ladder. But I'm curious to see, like, have you noticed that in your relationships at all? Do you feel like that aligns with kind of how we read it in the book, or do you feel like you're kind of opposed to that and maybe the situation is different in your household? What you got, MB?
I think it kind of aligns to what the book is saying because, like, literally, with the big transition with me and my wife, me
Oh,
moving
yeah.
down to a new city,
Yeah.
and me even changing my church home, like, so, like, I was talking to her. I'm like, okay, now I'm here in this city. Like, let's go ahead and view some other churches. She like, why would my church not be good enough? You know what I'm saying? Like, and the way I had to answer that, I had to tread real lightly, like, because I wanted to make her know, like, I love the church you at, but at the same time, I'm new to the city, so I want to be able to see multiple churches. And the beauty is, you're not so ingrained in that church that we can't go view other places. Like, so I feel like it's been a blessing from God, like just how certain things like have played out to be able to allow us to do it together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For a joint mission, like. So she even had to ask me, like, okay, what if we go to different churches? I said, no, that ain't gonna happen. Like
Yeah.
so
Right.
that was the one thing I put my foot down on. But everything else, I'm like, let's just at least view these places. Let's go ahead and see, if it's best for us, or if your church is best for us, then let's go ahead and settle in there. But I want God to be able to lead us and
Yeah.
us to be able to see different things before we just pick one. Let's pick one as a family, like.
Yeah.
And I feel like with women, they gonna always need that security and comfort. They
Yeah.
want that. Especially if they feel like they found somewhere good.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell them like let's just go and jump and go here.
Right.
Like so it's walking that fine balance, that tightrope, when it comes
Yeah.
to that.
What you got, Anthony?
I agree, buyers. Uh, I remember it was like, and this was like like when we were first few years into our marriage. I think we were going to her her church when she was going to her mom's church, and it's a really old Pentecostal church. I mean, old, like old people everywhere. I mean, we the youngest people in there. And
Been
our
there.
kids were probably the only kids in there. Um, and I'm looking around, and I like what he said. Like the man was scrutinizing the people in the church service to see if they are genuine. That was me. And every
Yeah.
time we left, I was like, man, I don't know. Like that just looked kind of staged to me. Like I would tell her this. I was like, to me, it just looks staged. Like, I mean, I know about the Holy Ghost and I know how it can move and people shout and people run around. I was like, but it seemed like I be peeping certain things. I'm like, it seemed like he like the pastor be giving a signal and
Mm,
then one person to run and everybody just start running and I was like, I just didn't feel the genuine
mm,
side of that. Now sometimes I did.
yeah.
Like sometimes I did, but it was just and I was like and like I'm clock watching. I was like, it happens every time at the same time. Like
Wow. Really?
I was on it. And I was like, I just don't believe any of this. And like she got mad at me, but I was just speaking on what I like what I saw.
Yeah.
And I mean eventually we wound up going find another church, but like that's me 100%. Cause I'm looking and I'm like I mean my discernment is on like 100
Mm,
and I'm looking and I'm like, yeah, that's kind of like I don't know about that. Like, I mean, because I mean, I know what the spirit feels like. I mean, I've been in the spirit before, and how it happens, and like, and I'm just like, definitely, this stuff just don't happen at the same time
mm.
every church service, like clockwork. I say something's up. Now I could be wrong, but we didn't stay. But like that was me. Like I was on that. And I'm on that at any like pretty much any. I mean, not if I'm visiting church, it doesn't matter. But if we're looking for
Hmm.
like searching for a church home
Yeah.
and we're looking, then yeah, like I'm honed in and I'm dang near not probably paying attention to the word because I'm looking around like okay, like
Man,
what's going on over here?
been there. Yeah. I can relate, man. I can relate for sure. You got something to add to that, Afar? You got an experience to share?
Well, interestingly, for me, it's the opposite. Like she's very, very, very like careful, critical, like very analytical about a lot of things. And so this part didn't directly speak to me or my experience, but I could see how it happens. It could happen or it's very typical, but and I appreciate the fact that like it's not cookie cutter every time. Like there are places where um like you would see it clearly in the book, but there are other times that, well, this doesn't necessarily apply in my case. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've just noticed that it's very different with us. Like we
That's
both
good.
very deep into the details. And sometimes I can even be like, okay, like we are over analyzing some of these things now. Like let's chill a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I have. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that and kind of viewing you guys. I can see both of you kind of having that engineering mind where you're
Yeah.
just kind of being detailed and breaking things down to the lowest common denominator. I can see that for
Yeah.
sure. Curious about you, Quill. You experience any of this, man? Has any of this hit close to home for you?
Yeah, I think all of you guys have said a lot of things that we can relate to. Um, my wife is more the discerning piece. I'm more the go-getter piece in our relationship, and she's the one that sits back and analyzes everything. I'm like, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. But then there are times when I'm like, you know what? Nah, not today.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just a matter of understanding how we can uh, benefit each other. And I think that's one thing that we are still growing in. as far as us, and 20 years in, we still trying to find that compatibility piece on certain topics. Now, there's other topics we already know. You know what? That's what my husband likes. That's my wife likes. So be it. Then there's certain details, and just like that tree that grows over time, it's going to be different in certain seasons. It's not going to be the same way. A young tree is needs to be nurtured differently compared to a veteran or an old tree, right? So it's just a matter of understanding the season that you're in. That will help out more so than anything else, I think.
That's good.
Well, I think there's one thing at the beginning that I wanted to emphasize, that for all of these good and bads that we've talked about, at the beginning he was saying that there's some good in all of it that we can help us complement each other and
Right.
become complete. And I think that that's important for us to, when we see the things that we are concerned about, like, oh, very emotional, talking like a lot about something, staying on one topic, like all of that, it just helps that you have at the back of your mind that there's the good side of it is what I want to leverage. Like, I really want to be able to reach into this experience, and if they're going on about emotions and how it feels and all of that, maybe it's going to help me be more like more sensitive about how I'm approaching this issue. So let me take this part of it and then let's run with it. And also, if you're just being on the topic, like just keep going, like maybe that's also helping with the goal. So like just trying to bring the good side of each of that, and then not just seeing it as, oh, here we go again kind of thing. I think that really helps us see the value in the experience. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's just the theme of this chapter is just understanding the other person for the purpose of being able to complement each other. I think that's the ultimate goal is that, you know, I think Dr. Matthews brought that up in his chapter where it talked about it's not good for man to be alone. So he made him a suitable helper. So they're suitable. They literally have strengths where we don't have strengths and vice versa. And Will, remind me, man, did you serve in the military? Is that why you were in San Antonio?
I grew up in San Antonio, but I did serve in the military. I was in the Army for 9 years.
Okay, cool, cool. I'm sure I said it before, man, but again, thank you for your service. But I think it was a military man who told me about a weapon or two types of weapons where you have one that's a long range weapon, and then there's one that's like short range, but it can kind of like the I guess the distance that it covers is not that far, but it can fire off quick rounds. So it's like the circumference is not that large that it can reach. But if you're talking about like having to like boom, 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 you're able to do that. Whereas you have this one weapon that goes very, very far that can do its own damage. So you have two weapons that, when used together, are very, very effective, and both are needed. And I think a lot of men are almost like that long range. They're very futuristic. They're thinking about plans. They're chess players. They're thinking 5 moves ahead. And women, I think that's why they're phenomenal multitaskers because they can recognize, hey, watch your 6, watch your, something's on your 3. You know what I mean? And they're able to like be nimble and take care of stuff, but they may not have the same foresight as men. And I just think the ability to complement and understand and value and recognize what your partner brings, the fact that they can be nimble and they can take care of the immediate problems that come up in the present tense. But then as men, we can kind of see down the road a little bit better. We have vision and we can see like, okay, that can be a problem. So let's take that out now before that sucker grows to be something bigger than what we can handle, later on. So I think moving forward with that mindset, I think is really the best way to uh to be husbands, and to really find value in our wives. Any closing parting thoughts with any of that? What you got, MB?
I feel like that speaks to at the end where it's talking about principles. It's like until the male recognizes the strength God has placed within the female,
Yeah,
he will be weak in those areas because she is designed to supply what he lacks. So the changes of the mindset and how you think of things, that emotional intelligence is a strength. Like so when you think of that, now you don't approach it as okay, you're annoying me. Like
Right.
you would understand that that's that she has that maybe you don't have because we don't. A lot of times, as male, we don't have patience with certain stuff.
Yeah.
Like Quill was saying, I want to get here. I want to get everything done in a couple words and we good. Like,
Right.
but that expression of that long detail can actually be a good benefit. You know what I'm saying? In many different ways. So I feel like this book has helped me in a lot of ways to kind of change how I think about little things, like
Yeah.
little small details, to be able to
100.
come up with a solution that works best for everybody instead of just me. You know what I mean? In a marriage, you're not serving. You know, your job is for the other person, vice versa. Like so, I feel like to understand it as a strength, it helps you to look at it in a whole new light. You know, to understand that okay, this is a strength of hers. Now let me nurture that. You know, like let me
Yeah.
not shut that down. You know, it's like so. I feel like it's a blessing to understand and to have different books like this to help you to compartmentalize things as men. That's what we need. You know, be able to
Yeah.
compartmentalize and understand that this is a value and not something that's taken away from you. Like so, if
Mm.
I look at it as a value, then I treat it in a certain way. You know,
Yeah.
like if I look at it as a strength, I respect it in a certain way. So I feel like it's just it's deep. You know, and to understand it, it helps. Like you said, us being brand new, I feel like it's giving me like keys that I
Yeah.
have never knew. And I've been married before, but
Yeah.
my intelligence then was small, just this book, like so now I just thank God for having this at this point in time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. 100%, man. 100%. 100%. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut down the recording.